Good afternoon, everybody. On this May 1st, 2025, I have all of your news for your rush hour ride home. And on today's episode of The Rush, we'll hear what Jennifer Coolidge has to say about why being good looking is overrated. I tell you, Jennifer, I know what you're talking about. Plus, a basketball beef in a local hometown getting exposed. I'll share that. And Charles Barkley is actually going to bat for Bill Belichick, wants a wellness check on him, thinks that he's being taken advantage of and has cognitive issues. I don't know if there's any truth to this idea, but we'll cover it. And a congressman will explain the obvious, which is it's ridiculous what we're dealing with in our country with this self-inflicted wound known as tariffs. So we'll have all of those stories, plus an interview about Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively with a content creator that is actually entering the legal world by forming and writing a bar complaint to the New York bar. She has both picketed Blake Lively's events, and she's right smack dab in the middle of it. So we'll hear what Colonel Curts has to say about covering that case. All these stories and more, and it's all happening right now on The Rush. All right, let's start off with Jennifer Coolidge. You might know her from The White Lotus, I believe, season 2 or 1 and 2? I don't remember. I remember her as Stifler's mom. Well, here's what she has to say about people that are good looking.
A lot of people that I know that are good looking are boring, and they don't know they're boring. You know what I mean? Some people get to be like the most beautiful person in the world, or people get to be that. But I think being really good looking is overrated. It's great for people that are good looking, and I'm happy for them. But it doesn't get you out of your misery, and it doesn't really help people in the end. You know, it's a shallow thing. Unless you're sleeping with that person.
Okay, so Jennifer Coolidge says, hey, you got to be good looking, but not that good looking. Right? I get you, Jennifer, right? You want to be a solid 8 out of 10. You don't want to be too good looking where you're getting out of parking tickets. You need some adversity, but you still want to be able to bat an eye and, maybe get a little extra free guacamole at Chipotle. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I hear you, Jennifer. And yeah, that is kind of the sadness of people that do get, a lot of green lights in life due to their looks. It's like, well, that will pass. So do you got a personality or not? We can't all be successful podcasters in our 40s. By the way, yes, it is my birthday. I am the youngest 40-year-old you'll ever meet. I mean, I am hours into being 40. I look good for 40. This is a good-looking 40 right now. I'll never be as young, middle-aged as I am right now. I'm essentially like that virgin who goes to college. Like, that's me right now. I'm a middle-aged virgin. Day one, baby. I'm going to start wearing sunscreen. All right, well, we got a homeowner's beef here. Reported by Fox 9, what is this, Minnesota? No, St. Louis. This is St. Louis, Missouri. And I love a good local story. This was sent to me by one of our audience members. Homeowner sues neighbor over children's basketball hoop. Let's have a listen to this.
Lily Moding and her husband first installed this basketball hoop for their 2 young boys. They thought it would be a way for their family to stay active and healthy. They never dreamed it would become a source of neighborhood drama and the subject of lawsuits and legal action from their neighbor.
I have lost so much sleep over this. It's been so stressful.
Lily says about a year ago, new neighbors moved in next door.
By the way, what a nice house. It's a glass backboard on a basketball hoop. If I lived in a neighborhood and one of the kids had a glass basketball hoop, that's the rich neighborhood. And, a nice garage there. Very nice. But either way, yeah, this is a ridiculous story.
And raised concerns about the location of their basketball hoop. The Modings discovered it was about 6 inches too close to the property line, so they had it moved with the city's approval.
We had to move it to where you see right now, so that is fully approved by the zoning board.
But it didn't end there. The neighbor filed a restraining order against Lily's husband, which was dismissed with prejudice. They've now filed a civil lawsuit against the family and the city of St. Louis Park, all stemming from this hoop.
I have a sense of dread because we've just been under attack for a year.
The neighbor also asked the court for a temporary injunction to prevent the boys from playing basketball in their own driveway throughout the summer months.
This person sucks.
citing safety concerns and that kids are trespassing by fetching balls that bounce onto their property. Lily tells me they set limits on what time their kids can play.
All right, so this is just sad, right? All right, well, look, you guys know me. I have my own little gavel here, so I like to offer some judgment here. And I'm going to rule for the kids playing basketball. And look, I understand basketball dribbling is kind of annoying. So how about this? No basketball before 9 a.m. and no basketball after 8 p.m. or sundown. When the sun goes down, no basketball. And here's the thing, to this neighbor, go F yourself. Go F yourself. Live a little bit. Oh, what a sad sack of a person. Now, I heard that the neighbor was actually a possible lawyer, so they're just litigious. But we had to deal with Laura Owens, litigious Laura. And I have to tell you this, some people just abuse the judicial system, but these kids are playing. There's nothing more pure in this hell-torn earth that we live in. Earth can be a tough place. There's nothing more pure than hearing kids laugh and play. You know, she should be charging them for that beautiful. Anyway, so look, and by the way, if you can't afford to live on your own property where you're not that close to somebody else, quit complaining. You're in the neighborhood. All right. Well, a lot of sports stories. Let's go over to Charles Barkley. He actually says he's worried for Bill Belichick after Bill Belichick's girlfriend, 48 years younger, seemed controlling in the interview. Have a listen.
You know, he's been a great friend for me for a long time. We've been friends since he coached for the Browns. I think he got to be very careful right now. This is starting to be on a very slippery slope. He's the greatest football coach ever for him and Nick Saban, for college Nick Saban, for Bill to NFL. Yeah, I from what I'm hearing, it's starting to be a very slippery slope. And I never talk about people's personal relationship. That's another rule I got. But I will admit, I'm a little concerned with some of the stuff that's going on. And I might actually reach out to him and make sure everything's good. But I am concerned from what I'm hearing because, it's not a good look right now. I'll admit that.
So he doesn't really get to the point of what he's talking about, but they're talking about cognitive impair, and maybe Bill Belichick doesn't have his wits about him, and she's taking advantage of them. He completely denies it. I mean, he's been a relatively sharp guy. I mean, he's coaching college football this year. He only took 1 year off of coaching, so he's not just a guy who's been sitting on his porch watching the clouds pass by for the last 20 years. I don't think he's got any cognitive issues, but again, there people are looking into this woman he's dating and seeing, the real estate deals she's doing and how she might be his boss or bossing him around. But it's like, look, maybe he needed someone in life to kind of vouch for him. I don't really know. All right. Here we have a Congressman, Ted Lowe of California, making it very clear how insane it is that they're discussing whether or not to deport U.S. citizens. Have a listen to this.
The fact that Democrats and my colleague, Representative Privilege Iapel, feel the need to even introduce an amendment that says ICE cannot deport U.S. citizens is batshit crazy. This should not even be a discussion. It is not even a question. U.S. citizens cannot be deported by ICE. It's the law. It's the Constitution. I will be astounded if Republicans vote no on this.
Yeah, that's the world we live in right now. We're keeping score. Who's voting for upholding the Constitution, due process, and who's not? And we'll have to see how that all plays out as we wait to see if the ships will be coming in. I didn't think I'd have on my bingo card for 2025 whether or not I need to stock up on food products before the great stalling of our economy. All right, well, let's move it to some conversation about something completely different. Of course, as I teased earlier, I'm chatting with Colonel Curts today. I really appreciate her stopping by the channel. And we discuss a lot about Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, how she got involved with this court case, and she kind of shares the motivation behind filing a complaint with the New York bar. That interview coming next. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on today's episode of the Rush Hour podcast, we have a content creator who's been covering the Baldoni versus Lively court case. It's Colonel Curts. How are you?
Hello, what is up? Thank you for having me. I have watched some of your coverage of Baldoni versus Lively, and so it's great to actually be here.
Yeah, and for those listening here, we've got a nice light rainfall in the background. So we have this beautiful, serene conversation, like we're in
With
some sort of
rumbling.
massage, right? It sounds like I'm at a massage parlor right now. Just,
Well, I hope that my mic is working. Do you think that it's working, or is it picking up too much of the
you
surrounding
sound
noise?
you sound fantastic. I love
Okay,
it.
wonderful,
Now, I
wonderful.
want to talk about how we got from covering Baldoni to the very end, which is now you filed a bar complaint with New York. You've protested with a nice sign at Blake Lively's premiere of her new movie. So, when did it become personal? And walk me through how you kind of got so involved in this court case.
That's a funny question. I like how you phrase that. It reminds me of like a 90s movie. Now it's personal. This time it's personal. No, I think the thing, Dave, is that I have just been doing this for a while, and like an old cranky lady who has just seen too much of this world's bullshit. I am tired of it. So I started my channel a little over 4 years ago, and I started it to cover the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard situation. And that was always my intended focus. And what happened is about a month into that, then the allegations against rock star Marilyn Manson hit. And it was very obvious to me after looking into that that was a BS hoax as well. And so somehow, without actually intending it, my brand sort of became combating Me Too hoaxes. And so the Baldoni, I've never been interested in Blake Lively. No offense to her. Well, I guess yes, offense to Blake Lively, but I've never been interested in her. I didn't know who Justin Baldoni was. And so my only interest in either of them has come from this Me Too hoax, because when Justin Baldoni, it took me a little while to catch on to this one, but when Justin Baldoni filed his big lawsuit, what was that, the beginning of January, then it was like the moment of like an epiphantic moment where I realized, oh my God, this is my mom creeping in the background. This is another hoax. This is like Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. This is like what I saw with Marilyn Manson and a number of other cases. And so I think the frustration that you see, and why I have gotten so involved in this, is because I am just so tired of seeing this game again and again and again. And I wish we as a culture could get past it, but I guess we aren't. It's going to be a while.
So when you say hoax, do you mean the idea that they're weaponizing the
Yes.
believe women or believe people when they come forward with claims, or?
Yes, absolutely. So I use the term hoax basically, you could say, as a synonym for deception. So Amber Heard was trying to deceive people into thinking that Johnny Depp was an abuser. I believe the same thing about Marilyn Manson's accusers. In fact, that was, his primary accuser, Evan Rachel Wood. She actively recruited other women. So that's what I mean by hoax, is that all of these women in these various cases, I think, have really put one over on the public and the mainstream media, or tried to.
And it's fair to say that in the courtrooms, people get it wrong. Some people are falsely convicted in different ways all the time, and whether it's something personal like these circumstances are domestic violence or things like that, it just happens. But online, people are very binary. They want to be, you're pro this or anti that. So if you're pro Johnny Depp, that means you're anti Amber Heard. You get put on a list. What has it been like realizing that, you become like the target of people that think maybe you're anti-woman because you're poking holes in these different cases?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I hear that all the time. I've been hearing for 4 years that I'm a misogynist and an R-word apologist, and every insult along those lines. But I think that you just have to have a certain disregard for the opinions of others. And I do think, we were talking about what it's like to hit middle age. Congrats to you, about to have a birthday. And me too as well. And I think that one of the benefits of getting older is that you do lose your regard for the opinions of others, unless they're people you care about, friends and family. But in general, I just try to ignore the noise. Sometimes it pisses me off, but I try to ignore it. And look, I have said again and again, Dave, until I am blue in the face, that just because I am against the problems or the excesses of Me Too, or the false claims that Me Too has ushered in, does not mean that I think that all accused men are innocent, or that I think SA doesn't happen. And I think, if you put me on the spot and you said, how many essay claims do you think are valid? I would say probably 50 to 60% in the real world. But when we talk about these celebrity cases where it's highly infused with media and financial incentives and all of that, I do think that most Me Too claims that are celebrity claims actually are probably false, because when you start looking into them, so many of them fall apart. And I've been fooled so many times in the past where I would hear an accusation that a woman makes against a celebrity man, and I would think, oh, what a sleaze bag, what a scumbag that dude is. And then I look into it and I find, wow, it looks like this woman has credibility problems. Wow, she lied about this, she lied about this. And so it's gotten to the point where I actually do think that in these celebrity cases that probably 50 to 60% of them are false claims. But no, I unfortunately in our world, tons of women get essayed. There's all kinds of evil in our world, and there are real, there are men who are misogynists and abusers and all that. I don't deny that.
Yeah, and I think by allowing people to have these conversations publicly, you're actually normalizing or removing the shame from people coming forward, because it's like you want people that are victims to come forward. You want to almost clear the lane for them to use the resources that exist. But whether it's there's a case right now with Shannon Sharp. I have no idea if the accusations are true, but what he's saying is you shared a 10-second video, show the 10-minute video. So whenever people say share as much evidence as possible, I tend to think they have little to hide. And with Justin Baldoni, they were kind of saying that we'll share everything we have, versus Blake Lively's side, who wanted to change some text around, remove an emoji, do certain things that, like you say, the sniff test immediately is you call bullshit. Now, when did you was your opinion in first supporting Blake, and then the more you looked into it, it flipped, or how did you evolve covering this?
Yeah, I was sympathetic somewhat to Blake Lively initially, because I did feel that the degree, back in, let's say, early fall, when she was getting so much hate on social media for being a mean girl and all of that, and people were, as it turns out, rightfully attributing the rift between the cast and Justin as her fault. I thought that some of the social media coverage that she was getting actually was unfair. And I was sympathetic to her. I looked, I saw the Christy Flaw video and I said, yeah, she was being a mean bitch in that video. But I did think that it had gotten excessive online. So actually I had some sympathy for Blake. And when she filed that CRD complaint, and when that New York Times story came out, I'm ashamed to say it, but I had a bit of a bias against Baldoni, because I was so turned off by the man bun feminist thing, which I realize now was a bit of a misperception on my part. I think that his philosophy is much more complex than that. But I looked at him and I saw the whole man bun feminist thing, and then I thought, well, to me, it's very conceivable that you could have this guy who actually turns out to be an asshole and a harasser, who's using the cloak of feminism to get away with this stuff. So to answer your question, I was somewhat sympathetic to Blake initially, although just generally not very interested in this. But when Baldoni filed his lawsuit, and I could see how his lawsuit was so much more evidence-based and logical than her lawsuit. There were things in her lawsuit that didn't make sense. And so when he filed his lawsuit against the New York Times and exposed all of that, it was it was an epiphantic moment, an epiphany. And I said, oh my God, I was wrong about this. And I said that, look, with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. When Amber Heard did her walk of shame in 2016 in front of that courthouse with the fake bruise and the crying and all of that, I thought she was telling the truth. I thought Johnny Depp was this weird wife abuser, right? And so I've been wrong on those things, which is why now I try really hard when I hear accusations of this nature to hold off on judging until I can look into it.
Yeah, I mean it's a great formula. Just hold off on judgment, gather all the facts. I think probably 95% of people that have read all the court documents are probably on Baldoni's side, because and it's not like they started that way. A lot of people started going, man, F this guy. And you're right that there are creeps out there that will, if someone I'm going to use Chris D'Elia as an example. If he gets one accusation, 75 pop up right after, because he was doing a very similar formulaic thing over and over, and people were calling him out. That never emerged with Baldoni. So in cases where somebody's super problematic, people will start, popping up and talking. So in your case now, you file a complaint. Now, can you explain what the complaint is all about?
Yeah, so I was really upset last week. Well, really upset. I mean, it's not cancer, but I was really upset last week when I heard about what Team Blake Lively did with that fake lawsuit. And of course, your audience is aware of this, but I'm not going to retread it. But the fake lawsuit to subpoena the materials from Steph Jones that she had already probably given them anyway, right? That whole thing just disgusted me. And I didn't know if it was illegal behavior, but it certainly seemed unethical. And so I was racking my brain for some way to try to hold these people to account in some little sense. And so I thought, well, why not file a complaint with the State Bar Association? Because they will look into it. I've had some trolls online telling me, oh, they're not going to look at this. They're just going to know that it's a politically motivated, stunt that you're pulling, and they're going to dismiss it. No, there are actual bureaucratic gears that are set in motion when someone officially files a complaint like this. So someone will look into it. Now, will there be a big investigation where will there be sanctions against this attorney? No, probably not. But it never hurts to try. And it was not, and I'll tell your audience this, it was not a difficult process. So it can definitely be repeated if anyone else is inspired to do it. But you just go online and you either type up your complaint or you fill out a form, you email it in, and then you put one hard copy in the mail. And so that's what I did. So really, in just a pretty short uh, essay, I explained what had happened, what the problem was, and why I was concerned, and politely asked them to look into it. And so my thinking on this is that if nothing else, it'll be a little annoyance that Team Blake Lively or their attorneys have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to this sort of like legal dick measuring contest they have going on, these things might not be illegal, but they're for sure unethical because you're removing Baldoni the chance to respond because they essentially get a fake court case, get the subpoena, and then pull out of the court case before anyone even knows it exists. So the fact that this is all coming out was never kind of what they would have assumed could have happened.
And that filing, the Van Zandt fake lawsuit filing, it was predicated on a false foundation anyway, because they were not disclosing who this was really for and what this was really about, and that they had already obtained this information that they were on this fishing expedition for. I mean, I think that you're supposed to disclose when you file a subpoena, you're supposed to disclose if you've already been given that information under the table. I'm pretty sure.
And this is why I hate the version of the internet where people will like smear each other anonymously. I have such a problem with that on Reddit because for me, it's like whether I'm doing content or stand up, it's like, you want to heckle me, go for it. But I'm going to respond right back to your stupid shirt or whatever. Like, let's play the game if that's what you want to do. And it's almost like with Lively filing that sham subpoena, they don't have a chance to it's not a fair fight,
It's not.
Super frustrating. Now, I like to ask everybody I talk to, what are the percentages where you think this is going to go to trial versus do you think it'll settle?
I used to think that the likelihood of settlement was very, very high, just because statistically it's very high and generally in cases of this nature. And also because I thought that at a certain point, surely Blake Lively would see the light, at least in terms of self-interest, that someone would be able to finally explain to her, look, the longer you're in this, the worse it is for you. You're heading down an Amber Heard road here, an Amber Heard path. Let's get you off of this. And so I thought that the likelihood was higher. But these days, I don't know, because it seems like Blake Lively is and Ryan Reynolds are taking every opportunity they can to fight this and to reject this opinion that the public has of them now. And so they are out there promoting themselves in various ways. And that Time magazine speech that she gave at the Time 100 conference, I know that she did not directly address the Baldoni situation. She said, a lot has happened in my life the last 2 years. This is not the forum for it. But then she proceeds to give a speech about how her mother was almost killed by a coworker, and clearly trying to equate what her mother went through in the workplace to Blake Lively's own perceived workplace harassment by Baldoni. So what this tells me is that this woman is fully committed. She and Reynolds are fully committed to maintaining their position on all of this and maintaining their claims. And so I guess we're going to go to trial. I guess we're going to see a trial.
Well,
It's amazing.
I'm sure we'll see you there with your good signage because
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know how to, like a good old millennial, you know how to make a good poster there. A lot of glitter. I'll be by you.
But although you were right in what you said about how I should have put some kind of identifier on there, I was kicking myself for that. And the thing is, I just did not know that stunt would get picked up by the media the way that it did. I thought I was just going to get some footage for my own YouTube channel.
Yeah, and if the media can cut out credit, they will. You need a QR code across.
I know. I did.
Next time you live and you learn. But
Exactly.
yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about before this thing goes to trial. But I agree with you. Every day that goes by, the odds of it going to trial increase. So I'll be there. I'm going to have some Starlink strapped to my head as I try to live stream from the footsteps of the courthouse.
You and me both will definitely see each other, and I'm sure there will be others there. It is going to be a gigantic circus, and it's going to, I think, rival or exceed what we saw with Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. I know that he was a bigger star than either of the people involved in this, but this has become such a huge story that
it's less of a bummer. Like Johnny Depp, if it was true what he did, it's like, ugh. This is kind of like more workplace conniving than than DV, really.
Right.
Well, I mean, March 2026, it could be ugly weather in New York. I've been there in March, but we'll have to see. Thanks again. Anyone who wants to check you out, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all Colonel Curts.
Yeah, so I'm Colonel Curts 99, just like you see on the screen. That's me everywhere. So yeah, I'm on X, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Well, I appreciate you guys sticking around to the end. I mean, look, it's my birthday. I'm going to go take the rest of the day off. I'm going to go to a spa. I like to choose a spa with a low rating. I don't want one of those prim and proper 5-star rated spas. Give me a spa with a 3.8 rating. I want to know what they're doing over there. So I'm going to go get a nice spa. I'm going to take my wife, or my wife's going to take me out to dinner with the baby, and we're going to go enjoy ourselves. Maybe I'll have a cookie too. Who knows? All right, I appreciate again in advance all the love and support. Y'all have showered me. I got a gift from Teresa. I'm going to unbox on my live stream today. Sent me some fun stuff. So I appreciate everyone out there and all the love. I don't know how else to say it. I honestly feel like I've never felt more alive. I've never felt more inspired to create, to perform, to grow, to provide for my family, and to try to put this world in a direction I want to give it to my kid as a direction where we share love, we expect the best out of each other, we give grace to get there, and we work hard for passions and goals that we have, and we reap the rewards of that. That's the world I want to live in, and you guys have really helped make that come true. I'm very reflective of that on my birthday, that I get to take half the day off, that I get to go out to dinner, that I get to do certain things, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you guys all so much. I'll be back tomorrow, and I'll see you then. I'm Dave Neal, and this is The Rush.